It's the door closing that's not intended to be opened again. And the idea is everything you do, I mean everything eventually, you will need a digital ID, and your digital ID will be connected to a digital currency. If you want to see what's planned for the West tomorrow, then look at China today, where if you are not behaving in a way that the government wants you to behave, then you lose credits in their social credit system. And if you lose enough, you can't go on a plane, you can't go on a train, basically take part in mainstream society. You are excluded. This is a global agenda. This is not about Keir Starmer, he's a gopher. It's not about Donald Trump, he's a gopher. And they're gophers for this global network that I call the global cult. And the idea is to eventually have a world government which won't be elected, purely appointed, technocrats, bureaucrat, that will oversee this AI digital system. And you won't be able to go anywhere in the world without this system is tracking you. Here we are now looking at this line in the sand, and if we allow it to be crossed, it's going to be very, very difficult to push back. And that's why it's so vital that the people of, well, this country, but all countries, realize the scale of freedom deletion this digital ID is a massive step towards and fundamental to the deletion of freedom.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Wednesday. No, sorry, it's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. And we're going out of the matrix into prime reality. Thanks for joining us. Let me start this by saying David Icke was right. And as we look into the world today, and so many people do, and so many people reach out to us and want to get our take on what is going on where we are in the plan, what we can expect next. There are few voices out there who have been more accurate, more consistent than David Icke. As a matter of fact, I can't think of anyone. I have been following his work since the turn of the millennium and reading his books. I got to interview him, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in the last few years. And I've been studying, what he's been putting out there, studying his documentary, studying his videos, studying his books, the information he was given. And over the years, I would move in my own direction, of course. I would follow my own intuitions and research. And it's kind of like all paths lead to David Icke most of the time. I have yet to find a big area where he was wrong. However, I do not think that "I told you so" is what David Icke was ever after. I think that during these times, knowing where to look to find good information is not only extremely difficult, but also extremely important. And so I wanted to play a compilation of clips from David Icke over the years, as he has called some of the biggest things that have happened in our world before they happened. And as he has explained how this is unfolding. So this is about a 10-minute, 12-minute compilation here. And let's watch this and then go a little bit deeper into this. Here we go.
The world is not necessarily going to end, but the Earth is going to go through a series of geological changes that are necessary to make sure it doesn't end. There have been many missions, if you like, over the last 12,000 years to try to free the Earth from control by a force that is working against the Godhead. The Godhead is the basis of all love and wisdom and all the rest of it in the whole of creation. But there is another being, the Bible refers to it as Satan, the real name is Lucifer, who is trying to take over creation. And because of the very important part this particular planet plays in the whole, actually destroying this planet would be a major step forward in that direction. Therefore, for the last 12,000 years, the influence on this planet has been from this being and from the energy which he sends out. And it's an energy that stimulates people to think in a certain way. So we hate, we are aggressive, we have no forgiveness, we have no tolerance. When we think, it is not a vacuum. When we think, we create an energy field. When you think thoughts of love and wisdom and of tolerance and all the things we wish to bring to the earth, you create a certain kind of thought energy, the very same energy that the Godhead sends around creation. When you think the other thoughts of hatred, of anger, of aggression, you create a different kind of energy known as negativity, which is very, very destructive. This being called Lucifer lives off this energy. So the more that is produced on this planet, the more powerful that being becomes. Therefore, he stimulates and has stimulated this planet over 12,000 years since he's been in control to produce as much of this energy as possible.
Across the millennium years is crunch time in this whole agenda, crunch time for the human race. This is the time when this network of interbreeding bloodlines wants to bring in its global fascist structure of a world government to which nation states would be administrative units, of a world central bank and a world currency, a currency that wouldn't be cash, it would be merely electronic, for which there are fundamental implications for human freedom. And also the world army, which is designed to be NATO, expanding and expanding as it is now, of course, to become the fully fledged world army, world police force. And underpinning that little lot is designed to be a microchip population, in which we are microchipped with our financial details, our medical details, etc., etc. And that would allow not only electronic tagging, people knowing where we are all the time, it would allow the external manipulation through this electronic means of our mental and emotional processes. This will happen unless the human race wakes up and wakes up fast. And to do that, we need to understand what's really going on. And to let people know that, we've got to stop beating about the bush, stop pulling punches, stop pussyfooting around, keeping information from people, oh my goodness, how will they react, and just say, this is going on, take it or leave it, make of it what you will, but this is what's going on.
We're going to create new viruses in laboratories that were resistant to drugs, that they were going to use that to cull the population, that they were going to use vaccinations to cull the population, and also that they were going to change the way that healthcare treated old people so that more and more old people died and didn't go long into life, because from their extraordinarily sick perspective, old people are useless to them. And what we're looking at now very clearly is this attempt to play that card of mass global immunization with a excuse of this manufactured virus to get access to the bodies, the body computer systems, as I would say, of almost everyone on the planet. And they're not doing that because they want to protect people from anything. Crikey, the force that's saying be vaccinated is the force that created the virus which they're saying be vaccinated against. They're doing this to get access to the global population for very, very malevolent reasons. And what people need to realize is that these families do not come from the same perspective of life and respect that we do. They see humans like cattle, nothing more than cattle, and most humans see cattle. They therefore have no empathy with the consequences for the human population of their actions. So if people say, they'd never do that, mate, no, you'd never do that. They do it all the time.
No, but I've been saying for years and years and years, way back into the 1990s, that these bloodlines drink the blood of children and vampire the energy of children because it rejuvenates them. This is why so many of them live so long. I mean, look, Queen Mother, 102, Queen, currently 86, Prince Philip, currently 91, David Rockefeller, 97, Father George Bush, 88, Henry Kissinger, 89. And there's a story that I saw this very day where researchers are saying that in experiments on mice, they found that older mice are rejuvenated by being infused with blood from young mice. What they're saying here is absolutely right. They don't realize the significance of it. That if you do, these people do drink the blood of children, and it reinvigorates them. It gives them a life force of youth, which gives them longer lives. But you mentioned Savile there, and there's a big important point here. What is happening at the moment in Britain, and it's all in the media. I mean, it's everywhere here, Jimmy Savile, and all the stuff coming out. But it's basically being held at the level that here was a stunningly widespread paedophile over decades and all over the country. And it's being kept to overwhelmingly to the fact he's a famous paedophile that's been exposed. The bigger story behind that is not being focused on, although I'm doing my best to get it out there. And that is that he was a procurer of children for rich and famous people. When we appreciate this situation that we've been talking about, then we can appreciate the two things. One, that these are the mentalities that are put in positions of power in the agencies, be it the EPA, the Agriculture Department, Food and Drug Administration, in the TSA, and all these agencies of government and government itself, and in the military, and in all these institutions of control. These are the mentalities that are put there. And now when you see what they actually get up to outside of the public eye, this is why they have no compassion for the consequences for children and innocent people of the drone bombing in Pakistan and elsewhere, of pepper bombing Baghdad and Tripoli, of putting stuff in the food and drink that they know is gonna give people massive health problems, of putting people away for the rest of their lives for crimes they didn't commit just to cover up the people that did commit them. They have no compassion. They have no empathy. This is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to grow up fast and realize that, because we're not dealing with even greedy humans. We're not even dealing with unpleasant humans. We are dealing with pure, undiluted evil.
World wars change worlds. And if you have a global agenda, then global problems allow you to offer global solutions. This is an agenda that's projected a long way forward. The Muslim world being brought into a war with the political Zionism, what today we call Israel, and that this would, in my terms, create a vortex that would draw in the world, in our terms, America, the European Union, NATO, into this war. I mean, I know it's hard to believe for anyone frickin' sane. And then you've got what I've been saying now way back in the 1990s. The idea is for this Third World War to involve Russia and China against the West. And what's opening up in the Ukraine, while all this is starting to go on in the Middle East, is another front against Russia. The United States is preparing for a war against Russia through Ukraine, and that what they plan is to try to take Crimea back. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who are 51st states of the United States, there are many of those, mind, funding this ISIS and funding this terrorism, while the Americans, who could tell them to stop any time, are saying, are condemning the very terrorism that their 51st states are supporting. Well, the picture's so bloody obvious. It's a setup. When you look at it from this perspective, what is happening in the Middle East is not random. None of it's been random. Libya's not been random. Syria's not been random. None of it. And ISIS certainly isn't random. It's part of this long-term plan to take over the world by creating enormous chaos to which they can offer the order out of the chaos, their order, their new world order. And when we realize that,
we can see that events are not random, but coldly calculated. These people are sheer, undiluted evil. And people need to understand that. Otherwise, they will reject that anyone could do what they're doing and kill and maim and slaughter so many people. They can do it because they have no heart, they have no empathy, they have no emotional compassion, and thus mayhem is their currency, and they have no emotional consequence. They are not like us, so don't judge what they'll do by what you would do, because it ain't the same thing.
You know, people say they would never do that. Yes, they would, and they are every day. If you just look at these few clips here, like 10 minutes of, between 1991 and 2014, and you can already tell how many things he's called. Now, he hasn't always been alone. Some other people have called these things. But I think in terms of complexity, showing the big picture from geopolitics, world finance, from conspiracy, secret societies, how it plays into the much darker subjects of pedophilia, Satanism, satanic rituals, stuff that we talked about, into the other dimensions, into the astral, into Saturn, Saturnalia, into the, especially in a recent 15, 20 years, his deep exploration into the, phenomenally huge possibility that we are living in a perceptual holographic reality that isn't really real the way that we think, and that we are actually part of a matrix here, a simulated reality maybe, or an artificial reality that is overlaid or projected over the real thing. We've studied all this in depth, and the interesting thing is that when David Icke was talking about these things, he was on the fringe. Very few people were talking about it. Some were, but very few. And now, the idea that this is a simulation is so widespread, and so many people are researching this, and so many people are going deeper into this and believe it and have their own experience of it. All that to say that if you need a roadmap, pun intended, okay, we put the link to David Icke's book in the video description. I think this is a time where you go. This is his newest book, by the way, The Roadmap. I've been reading it extremely slowly. I usually read books very fast, but this one I've been reading extremely slowly, consciously contemplating on all the things, very information rich. As always, David Icke uses part of his books to also invite in newer readers. So even if you start with this book, you still get a good idea, and then he goes extremely deep and comprehensive. But if people need a roadmap as to what is unfolding in the world today, why it is happening, David Icke's books are available. He started his, really awakened writing career in 1991, and he's written countless books since. In the last years, I mean, almost one per year, I think. And it's just outstandingly researched work that will help people. Here's the great danger that I see, and why I always ultimately point back to David Icke as one of the most profound researchers of our time, who will probably be remembered in the future as that. Why I point to him is because in recent years, in the last 5-6 years, an unbelievable amount of people have started to awaken and research. It was the COVID scam, the big hoax, the worldwide orchestrated agenda that opened so many eyes. And let me just quickly take that as a perfect example of what he has called many years before it was going to happen. And sort of COVID proved so many of David Icke's points, so many of all of our points. One in particular, that it is a worldwide cult, a worldwide cabal that runs the entire show. If COVID didn't show you that, then I don't know what would have. Because when you look at the media language, at the coherent actions all over the place, And basically, they were speaking with one voice. They were saying the same things all over the world. Surprisingly, countries that usually are at odds with each other somehow all agreed on this one narrative and how to present it to the people, even though it was very clear from the beginning that the narrative wasn't true, that everything that came after wasn't true, that the treatments weren't real, that all of it was one big orchestrated horrific event. And yet all the countries went forward with it. Doesn't matter if it was Russia or China or Germany or the United States or Ukraine. Everybody went along. Israel, my goodness. And so we see that COVID opened the door and opened the eyes of so many people. However, what happened was that when while people started awakening, they were going to all kinds of podcasts that started popping up and all kinds of media outlets that started popping up, all kinds of shiny speakers that had some valid truths and facts and a lot of crap and a lot of lies put in there and deceptions. Some of them knowingly, they were just put there as agents because the alternative media was hijacked. Thank you, Kim, for your contribution. The alternative media was hijacked, and so they were inserted, and a lot of people started listening to those folks and just stayed at that informational level. Most of that alternative media, as far out as they go into conspiracies, always return to the political system and always return to Republican or Democrat or this candidate or that candidate. Not David Icke, never. David Icke, as a matter of fact, has been very consistent. If you look at his past, he was at one point very shortly working for the Green Party in the UK, then had his awakening and saw through the entire system. That was in the 80s. And so he has consistently called the worldwide bullshit that is the political system and that political parties are, and that none of it is really real, that they all ultimately are controlled by the same force, and that within the arena of politics, nothing fundamentally changes, and that the same agenda is being pushed forward. This is why I point to him, because he has called all the big things correctly. Now, what is all this about, this massive conspiracy? We see it now. We see, once again, the worldwide coordinated actions. Even though countries are at odds, they fight with each other, they have trade wars, and they have tariff wars, and they go and bomb shit, but ultimately, they're all moving in the same directions. Digital currencies in many countries already a fact, in some just about to roll out. In the United States, they just named it something different. They don't call it a central bank digital currency, but ultimately the same thing. Digital IDs, same thing all over the world, from Vietnam to Australia to Canada to the European Union to here. But do they necessarily say digital ID? No, you can already have it on your Apple phone, but the door through which they will introduce digital ID, in my opinion, will be voter ID, which, like I said, a little rebranded, but ultimately the same concept. And so you have these, you have this network of things that need to work together: digital ID, digital money, and you being connected to that system, not just through a device, but directly, all sort of guided by artificial intelligence. David Icke has called this in his books for decades, and he's, been very consistent on this. So I would, if I were you, and if you haven't read any of his books, I would go and check them all out, and if you can, order them all and start reading them. I would actually go back into, 2000, or in the 2000s, read something like Children of the Matrix, and start there, and then go up, because you can actually see how he called it, right? Because now you're already living it, but back then you weren't, but yet he called it. And more importantly, because he's one of the few people that has this ability to go hardcore into the very dark subjects, but never lose the truth behind it all, which is that all of this bullshit is orchestrated because we are a very, very, very powerful, beautiful, um, because we're very powerful, beautiful beings, because we are incredibly creative, because we have a and the ability to connect far beyond this body, even beyond this world, with our awareness and consciousness, and that we would never be able to be controlled if we knew and remembered that. So that's what David Icke never really has lost in all of his explorations, and this is what he always really pushes out there into the world. So it's all in the books. For those who are looking for proof, for those who are sort of looking for the last shred of evidence, please go and read it. But for the others, there's much more to explore, beyond the politics, beyond even digital IDs and digital currencies and artificial intelligence and transhumanism and pedophilia and satanic networks. Now, all of this he covers in great detail, but more importantly, who we actually are, what all this is about in the big scheme of things, and how we are the ones who can end this game once and for all. This is really the most important key. And I don't know if anybody else who has all the pieces together like David has, right? Like I said, I interviewed him 4 or 5 times over the last years. And every single time I was inspired beyond imagination. And it always led me to go deeper and deeper. And that's what we're doing here too. So the thing is, we're in so many of the things that he predicted and wanted for people to wake up and stop, but they happened. We're here. But never for a moment have I ever experienced David Icke hopeless or ready to give up. Mind you, the guy is banned from traveling pretty much anywhere outside of the UK. He can't go into Europe and the rest of Europe. He's banned from Europe, not charged with, even suspected of, or let alone convicted of a crime. No. It's just because they don't like what he thinks. That's what what they said to him. They said, we don't like how you think. And unless you change your thinking, you can't come in. So the thought police is already out there. He can't go to Australia. He can't go to, I believe, the United States, or at least, a lot of times when somebody's banned from Europe, it translates over to the United States as well. So the guy's been banned from traveling, and interestingly enough, this coincided with the COVID bullshit, because see, David Icke was getting a lot of traction in the 2010s. A lot of big like arena tours and speaking to 10,000 people at a time. And they just couldn't have that because he hits the spots. People walk away. When you listen to a David Icke presentation, like when he goes 6-7 hours, when you listen, you don't just listen, you feel it. You feel it in your spirit, you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your soul. You are moved. And that's what they can't have, you see. So they banned him. They didn't just ban him from these countries. They banned him for years from YouTube, from Facebook, from Instagram, from TikTok. Try to make him invisible. It was part of our mission in the earlier years of Inspired when they banned him, and even now, of course. But we said, no way is David Icke going to disappear from YouTube. So we edited out all these segments of his speeches and put them out there, and they were watched by millions of people because his voice cannot be erased, not in this time. And we cannot for a single moment stop knowing that ultimately this game has already been, we have already triumphed. Ultimately, we have to know that on a much, much deeper level, who we really are. This is what the message is about. It's not political. Listen, none of the solutions that people ask for so often are political. You can't vote your way out of this. You never could. If voting would make that much of a difference, it would have been banned a long time ago. So no, there's no voting our way out of this. There's no new political system that we put in the old one. This is a transformation. It's not a rebellion. It's a transformation. It's not a violent revolution. It's a revolution of the spirit. It's truly an awakening. And I wish that more people out there would give David Icke the credit that he deserves, not to boost his ego, but because the information is so vital and important that he delivers daily through the shows, the videos, but the books, and because it can help people shift tremendously. So all that to say, we're not affiliated with David Icke. This is not a pitch for anything. This is just to say, if people are looking for more clarity, if they want to find a way out of the maze, is literally what he put this on here, the roadmap, escaping the maze of madness. If people want that, I couldn't think of a single source that would help you more than David Icke and his books. So in closing, we'll close the segment out today in the show with a snippet of an interview that we did in 2023 with David, where he talks about truth vibrations and what that means and what he expects will happen. And it's a very beautiful, a very positive message. And it's the one that we need to hold in our hearts, I believe. So we're going to play this segment and then call it a night, friends. So thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you. And here's David Icke from our 2023 interview. A small snippet, very inspirational.
Very soon after
Nope, there it is.
Very soon after I had my head blown off, my spiritual awakening in 1990, one of the themes that was given to me was something I gave the name to, truth vibrations. And I called it truth vibrations because what I was being told in that really first year after my awakening was that there was a vibrational change coming that was going to transform and awaken from their coma the human enslaved mind, basically. And that those that were more awake were going to be infected first with this truth vibrations, as I called it. And eventually, even people that at that time were solid gold asleep were going to start seeing the world differently. And that it would have another effect, which is that all that had been hidden would be put before us. We would see all that had been hidden from us. Now, in 1990, when I wrote that book, there was absolutely no evidence of that. And on through the 90s, across the millennium. But look at it now. Now, what do we know now that we didn't know 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that we didn't know 10 years ago, 20 years ago? So this truth vibrations is happening. And how it was explained to me was this energy is bringing to the surface all that had been hidden. In other words, the way and the manner with which we are being controlled is going to be shown to us. And my God, it's being shown to us. This is the thing, you see. These demonic entities and that consciousness, which is the common theme, what Gnostics call Yaldabaoth or the demiurge, what Christians call Satan or the devil, what Islamic believers call Shaitan or Iblis. These are all different names for a state of consciousness, an inverted, chaotic, mad state of consciousness, which expresses itself through these demonic entities. They're just expressions of this, just as the global cult in this reality is an expression of that ultimate. They already have a loosh farm. They're already trawling our energy. What they're terrified of is losing that control, which means losing their energetic sustenance. That's why they created the illusion of the matrix, the simulation to control and bewilder perception to generate the loosh. They're not censoring and trying to connect us to this electromagnetic cloud, thank you, Elon Musk, that's described by Silicon Valley crazies like Ray Kurzweil at Google. They're not doing that to enhance their power. They're doing that to protect what they already have. Because once we awaken and the vibration we generate reflects that awakening, then their matrix starts to dismantle because we're holding it together, not least by our belief that it's real. Energy flows where attention goes. And so what it seems to me is that these truth vibrations are also impacting upon the astral. And as they impact upon the astral, this demonic force is being forced into lower and lower levels of the astral as these truth vibrations impact. And now these demonic entities are trying to get into this reality as a way of escaping the truth vibrations, which are also happening in this reality, but more profoundly at the moment in the astral. And therefore, what we're starting to see is the astral madness starting to impact more and more on this reality. This is
getting crazier and crazier every day.
Getting crazier and crazier. Why? Because it's getting more astral and astral and astral because of this process. So we are in this position of craziness, but it's not permanent. It's part of the clearing out of that which has controlled us. So it's going to get crazy. It's going to get real crazy. If people think they've seen crazy now, they've seen nothing yet. But what's happening is this massively part of this clearing out of this vibrational state which has held human perception in servitude all this time. And in terms of the matrix itself, you know, there's a theme which talks about we're going to create a new earth. I don't think we are. I think we're going to remove the layer of illusion that's keeping us from the original earth, or what I call prime reality, which is a very different realm to the one that it's become as a simulation. The Gnostics in their Nag Hammadi documents describe this reality of the demiurge, the Satan devil, in other words, as a bad copy of prime reality. And so as this matrix is dismantled, this illusory matrix, this dream that's there because we believe in it, as it kind of fades and dismantles amid a period of absolute insanity, then what will be left is the earth, the world, the realm, the reality, really. You get too focused on planets and stuff. That the matrix has been overlaying. So what you do is you create a biological computer that decodes the overlay, the matrix, and any consciousness that incarnates into that body will believe that the matrix, the simulation, the headset reality is real, even though in the same space that we are experiencing this lies prime reality as well. It's just that because we've been locked into this fake reality, prime reality is lost to us in terms of perception. But when the illusion fades, prime reality will be where it has always been, in the same space that we're experiencing. And as that comes through and the matrix dismantles and fades, it will appear, certainly at first, that a new earth, a new reality is appearing, but it's not new. It's the reality we come from. And it's the reality we'll ultimately go back to. But there's going to be a lot of craziness before that happens.
Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.